Welcome to the Outsiders Podcast. It is summertime and we're talking NFL football, and we're going to be doing it with a very special guest, which is going to be a guy who spent 15 years in this great league, Charlie Batch. Of course, 11 of those spent in the city of Pittsburgh, winning 2 Super Bowls with the Steelers, baby.
My favorite quarterback from the Detroit Lions, or in the NFL in general, Charlie Batch. I cannot wait. I mean, he played with Herman Moore, Barry Sanders, Chris Claiborne, Bryant Westbrook, Terry Fair, Stephen Boyd. I could keep going. 2006, he won Walter Payton Man of the Year Award. In 2013, Byron Whizzer White Award. He's got Project Chuck, Best of Batch Foundation, Batch Packs, Batch of Toys. He's got it all. How does he do it all? Stays so busy. Current free agent, looking for a team out there. Can't wait to have him on. Ask him all the questions I've been wanting to ask him since the 2000s.
Absolutely. Can't wait to bring on Charlie. Here's a guy who's a role model in an era where there aren't many to be found. Charlie, you mentioned all of his foundations, and batchfoundation.org is going to get you all that information on all those great foundations.
Or charliebatch.com. Don't miss out on that one.
This is just a great guy. Very solid. One of the best backup quarterbacks in the league over the past 11 seasons. He has had a lot of duty filling in for injuries from Ben Roethlisberger. He has had so many great moments. Of course, last year, beating Baltimore 23-20 when it looked like there was no chance that was going to happen. Charlie Batch comes in and wins him that game, kept him alive in the playoff race.
Yeah, he went back to his hometown, Homestead, Pennsylvania, a Pittsburgh guy growing up, big Steelers fan. But I've got to ask him what happened in 2001 when Marty Mornhinweg and Matt Millen came in and completely just blew up the team and thought Mike McMahon and Ty Detmer would be better quarterbacks than Charlie Batch. And I've just got to ask him what happened there, if he wanted to start after that, if he found any starting jobs, but chose his hometown instead.
Well, I can't wait any longer. Let's go ahead and bring Charlie on. I think we've got him on the line.
Steelers head coach Mike Tomlin turned to 37-year-old quarterback Charlie Batch.
Chuck, you cool? Beautiful. Don't pass up an easy completion on first down. Yep. All right, let's move this ball. Set hut. You heard me? Yeah, I'm good.
Our next guest has played quarterback in the NFL for 15 seasons with both the Detroit Lions and Pittsburgh Steelers. He has been a part of 2 Super Bowl championship teams and is one of the classiest guys in the NFL. Please welcome to the Outsiders Podcast, Charlie Batch.
And we are very pleased right now to bring on former Detroit Lion, former Pittsburgh Steeler, Charlie Batch. Charlie, how are you doing, bud? We know you're real busy this week with Project Chuck. How's it going down there, and how's the foundation going?
Everything is going well. Right now, in the middle, we're in our 3rd week of Project Chuck, which is our 12th year, which is our annual basketball league, and Chuck stands for continuously helping uplift community kids. This year we had 353 kids participating. We do it for 4 days a week, 7 days a week, so it keeps us busy.
Yeah, always important in the summer. Keep the kids coming in, keep them busy. And, of course, as we're talking about your foundations, if people need to check out batchfoundation.org to check out all your minutes, that's not all. Charlie, you're involved with, you've got Batch of Toys, Batch Packs, Project Chuck, of course, as we talked about, and Best of Batch Foundation. How important is it for you to keep involved like this? You've always been such a charitable person. How important is it for you to keep up with all this stuff?
It's important. I have a rare opportunity, to play for the Steelers and then to be in my hometown, and that's just something that really, for me, it allows me to be hands-on on everything that we do. We touch over 1,000 kids throughout the calendar year, and you touched on a couple different programs that we run, and it's just exciting because here we are. We use June 1st as our new calendar year, and when you start out like this and go 7 to 8 weeks in the summer, it's just something that really tires you out, but at the same time, when you see the smiles on the kids' faces, it makes it all worth it.
Going back to your career with the Detroit Lions in 2000, you had a Thanksgiving game against the New England Patriots with Bill Belichick and Drew Bledsoe right before the Tom Brady era. You guys destroyed them 34-9, and you received the All-Ironman Award, which goes to the toughest and gutsiest performer. Can you talk about that game and how you were you injured your ribs late in that game, trying to throw to David Sloan in the back of the end zone and then diving in between 2 defenders?
That was anytime you give an opportunity to play on Thanksgiving, it's special because you're the only one playing. everyone around the country is watching you. So you want to kind of go out there and really show that, hey, you belong, number one, to play on that game, but at the same time, it's a pivotal point in the season. And for us during that time, I mean, it was important for us to, go out there, play against a strong New England team, even though the record didn't necessarily indicate as strong as they were. We knew it was going to be tough, but we went out there, we played well on that day. Like you said, we won 34-9. And it's funny because, Phil Simms received that award, and every year now that the game is played on CBS, they always show the past award winners, and so some of the rookies, they weren't in the league, they were in middle school, maybe some in elementary school by the time that game was played. So they always remind me, like, wow, I can't believe you played that long ago, So it's just funny, every time they bring it up.
You also played that year in a Thursday night game at Tampa Bay. They had this Shaft theme, but instead they changed it to Sap with some lyrics that annoyed me during the game. But I remember a 3rd and 23 that you converted down the left sideline to Johnny Morton. And can you just take us back to that game? I mean, people were expecting the Bucs to win. They had a great defense, Keyshawn Johnson, and just how you kept pace with the Bucs in the division after winning that game.
Yeah, anytime you have division games, those are things that really, when you look at it, you know how important they are as players. And going down there on a Thursday night, we knew we were going to get some rest the following weekend, so we just tried to do whatever was possible to go out there and get that win and get that much-needed rest throughout the weekend. And we, playing that game and winning a big road game like we did, that was important during that time.
You started off the 2000 season with Bobby Ross as your head coach, and in the middle, kind of near the end, Gary Moeller replaced him. You guys did very well under Gary Moeller. You almost made the playoffs had you not been injured in that last game against Chicago, where Paul Edinger made a 54-yard field goal. How hard was it for you to leave that game, not being able to come back, watch your guys out there, barely miss the playoffs by one game?
It was a tough time because when you look at it, it was a totally different era that started at that point because of that loss. And, when you go and you put your heart and soul into a season and to come up short the way that we did, it was devastating. But at the same time, you can kind of see how things changed it, because now all of a sudden the Matt Millen era came into play. And as players, everybody thought that Gary Moeller really should have had an opportunity to at least have to be a head coach in that role the following season, and unfortunately he didn't.
Well, Charlie, of course, you were a member of the Detroit Lions from 98 to 2001, played with some really good players out there, had some highs and lows with that organization. Can you just talk about some of your memories playing with guys, like Jermaine Crowell, Herman Moore, Barry Sanders? So many great teammates you had there in Detroit.
Oh, yeah, it was. I was young, exciting, to play, be in the National Football League. When you look at it, I thank the Ford family for giving me an opportunity to wear that uniform. And I think when you go out there many years ago, you're just trying to have fun, trying to play, and trying to win as many games. And when you talk about some of those players who were there, I had a chance to hand out to Barry Sanders, and you're talking about throwing to some of the best receivers that played in that the Lions era uniform. With Johnny Morton, you're talking Herman Moore, Jermaine Crowell. If he didn't get injured, he probably would have shattered a lot of Herman Moore's records. So I think when you just look back at the talent that we had, we were able to kind of get to that 8-8. We were there, but we just couldn't get over that hump, and it was very tough. And you can see it. It took a while for them to get back into the playoffs, and and hopefully it's turning around for them right now.
Well, in 2001, you mentioned it, Marty Mornhinweg and Matt Millen come in. Everything seems to fall apart at the seams. What in the world was Marty Mornhinweg thinking, like pulling you, putting in Mike McMahon, and going with Ty Detmer? It seemed kind of disrespectful. I had watched you the season before in 2000. It seemed you were clear-cut a very high-caliber quarterback. What happened with Marty Mornhinweg and yourself?
I think anytime you look back and you have a new era with general manager and a head coach, they're looking at it and want to bring their own guys in. Unfortunately, I wasn't part of their plans, and they wanted to move in that direction. You can kind of see they drafted Mike McMahon, and all of a sudden they drafted Joey Harrington the following season after I was released. So you knew at some point they were going to go directions, and that whole team revamped. And by the time I think we played them in 2005, I think there were only, when I was in
yeah, I felt like you were a high-caliber quarterback. You guys were a playoff-caliber team, maybe a few pieces away from contending for a Super Bowl in my eyes, and we also talked to Chris Claiborne recently. He felt the same way. Do you guys, or do you personally hold any resentment or anger, as I do, toward Marty Mornhinweg and Matt Millen for ruining some of your careers and those of your teammates?
How can I come back home and I'm playing for the hometown team? I mean, you go out there, you win 5 division titles, you come back home to Pittsburgh, you win 5 division titles, you go to 3 Super Bowls, and you win 2. How can I hold a grudge?
Oh, yeah. I mean, absolutely. And of course, that's, you talk about going to Pittsburgh where you've been for the past 11 seasons. I mean, in 2002, you joined the Pittsburgh Steelers, and, in a backup role, you've had some wonderful moments in Pittsburgh. You've won, like you said, you gave all the accolades, Super Bowls, division championships. What has it meant to you to be there and be a part of that great organization and to win those Super Bowls and to be a big part of it as you've had to play many games during that time in relief of Roethlisberger?
I mean, anytime I have an opportunity to put on the uniform I dreamed of playing for with the organization here with the Steelers. I mean, born and raised in Pittsburgh. I grew up 10 minutes from the actual stadium, and to be this close to home and be able to really live a dream come true. I think it's something for me to really go back and you cherish every moment, because putting on that uniform, it was so surreal to me, because I wanted to wear that black and gold uniform since I was a child. And to do that and to come back home and be part of it for the Rooney family and come back here and be part of what Kevin Colbert was going to build. And people forget that Kevin Colbert was in Detroit. He was under Ron Hughes, and all of a sudden Kevin leaves. He takes over Pittsburgh, and he brings Ron Hughes with him, who was the guy that Matt Millen fired. And both of them two build up this organization to the point of building it from the draft, and that allowed us to have a lot of success. So I think that's one thing. When you look back, people tend to forget as far as what Kevin Colbert has been able to do here in Pittsburgh, and people forget his days in Detroit.
Did you have any starting offers after that 2001 year when you were released by the Detroit Lions, and have you had any in your time at Pittsburgh, but you chose to stay with your hometown team?
I think any time that a starting opportunity became available, I was still under contract here in Pittsburgh, so it wasn't something that presented itself at that time. And when my contract expired, there was nothing available. So I think with all things weighing evenly, it was important for me to really stay back here and continue to do what I want to do back at home. Not only playing on the field, but allowing me to be able to grow my foundation to the levels that it's at. So I think it's just something that, for me, when the opportunity presented itself, it just wasn't there when my contract expired.
In 2005 season, you come in for the Steelers and beat the Browns and the Packers. Without either one of those wins, you guys wouldn't have made the playoffs and had your great Super Bowl run. Does that make that Super Bowl ring mean just that much more to you, knowing that you had a significant part on the field in helping the Steelers win that championship?
Oh, it was definitely important in those big games there. We needed them to get to that point. We were 6-2. We ended up losing 3 in a row. We were 6-2 after those games, and then ended up losing 3 in a row. At that point, they get to 7-5 and then putting on that run. So I think anytime that you go through that Super Bowl run, and because you have 52 of the 53 guys that never went to the Super Bowl and never experienced that, I mean, it was special, because we had a group of guys that was hungry, and you could see the excitement on everybody's faces trying to go out there and search for their first Super Bowl win. And when we got it, I mean, it was so special to be able to do some of the things that we did, becoming the first number 6 seed to go on the road and win every game. And we did that, and to be part of history and to send Jerome Bettis out the way that he did on top in Detroit, it couldn't get any better than that.
Well, Charlie, at age 38, you've had so many accomplishments, won Super Bowls. What's next for you? I mean, does it get to a point where you're comfortable with leaving football behind, or do you still have more to prove on the field in the NFL?
Well, I think anytime for me, to have an opportunity to still play this game is truly a blessing, and if I can still do that, I would love to continue to play, and I still feel that I can do so. So right now, I'm just kind of in a wait-and-see approach. But I think when you look back and look at my career, I mean, for me, to play 15 seasons, I mean, I would never tell you in a million years that I would think that I would play 15 seasons when I first entered the National Football League in 1998. So I think any
Just going back to that time with Marty Mornhinweg in 2001, I just wanted to get your mindset as you were kind of pulled and they went in the Mike McMahon, Ty Detmer era. Just what were you thinking and how disappointed and if you felt any kind of disrespect?
I think anytime that you lose your job, I mean, you definitely feel disrespected that way. But for me, it was just one of those things that you see the business side of it, and you knew that okay, they were going to go in a different direction, and at that point, you don't turn around and take anything personal because you understand it's business. And I never questioned whether or not what was going to happen at the end after that season, and that was me getting another job somewhere else and continuing on with my career. So it was just one of those things that had happened, but at the further you remove from it and you turn around and see what's really going on, I think everybody saw at the end of the day, whose responsibility it was, and it ultimately fell on Matt Millen.
Charlie, of course, the AFC North has been so strong for several seasons. We just saw the Ravens win the Super Bowl last year. I wanted you to just get your thoughts on kind of the rivalry that's developed between Pittsburgh and Baltimore. It's one of the most physical games every year. Everybody wants to watch both games in the regular season and usually a game in the playoffs when the two teams get together. And also your thoughts. I mean, last year you had the emotional victory, coming from behind and beating the eventual Super Bowl champions on the road in Baltimore. With you starting and while Roethlisberger was hurt. Talk about the rivalry and what it meant for you also to win that game last year and how big that was for you guys.
I mean, the rivalry is one of the best in football, if not the best. And I think anytime that you get these two teams together, cities hate each other, players go out there and you turn around and you have to leave it all on the field. Because what tends to happen in this game is the fact that if you lose to Baltimore and you don't win the division, that means there's a chance that you're going to have to go on the road and face that division foe. And it always plays out that way. Either Pittsburgh has to go to Baltimore, before the early 2005, before we went on our Super Bowl runs, or most recently you had Baltimore having to come to Pittsburgh before they had their Super Bowl championship run this year. So you know it's a pivotal game. You know how important it is. And no matter what, 2 years ago we went 12-4 and we lost to Baltimore. And guess what? We were playing on the road in the playoffs, and that's just something that really you just can't have to happen. No matter how good your record is, you have to win your division, and I think that was a proven example 2 years ago. Whenever we didn't, we had to go on the road and face Denver.
Going back to 2009, being here in Kansas City, we got to ask you about the game. Ben Roethlisberger gets a concussion. You come in for him and just end up losing that game in overtime. I think there was a third down play. You threw or pitched it to Willie Parker, and Javon Belcher stopped you. Can you just talk about that game in 2009 against the Kansas City Chiefs?
Yeah, I mean, that was one of those deals where, the ball wasn't bouncing our way. I mean, everything that could have went wrong for us did, and everything that went right for Kansas City. And I think when you look at when it went right for Kansas City, and I think when you look back at that game, the record, they weren't playing well at all. I think they ended up finishing maybe 2-14. I don't know, but one of those wins was against us. And when you turn around and look at that game, it just started a spiral of losses for us during that season. And we ended up finishing the season 9-7. But during that Kansas City game, you can look back and you kind of see how everything goes. That you turn around and give them a chance, they were going to win the football game, and they did that. And hats off to Kansas City.
I know one of your favorite quotes is Ralph Waldo Emerson, do not go where the path may lead, but go instead where there is no path and leave a trail. Can you tell us what that has a meaning to you?
I mean, it's just one of those deals where, for me, I always like to go out and inspire kids and let them know. I take it personally. It doesn't matter where you're from. There's always going to be a right way and there's always going to be a wrong way. And sometimes when you're faced with criticism or faced with forks in the road in your life, you have to decide which one you're going to do, which road you're going to go down. And I think that's what it looks for me to go out there, and I always use it in one of my speeches, and I kind of give different examples of how it can relate to the audience, depending who they are. But for me personally, when I look at that, it's a matter of here it is, a kid from Homestead having an opportunity to go out, play ball, live my dream, but at the same time never forgetting where I came from, and that's Pittsburgh, and that's Pittsburgh, but Homestead, Pennsylvania is where I'm from, which is 10 minutes away from downtown.
Well, Charlie, we can't not thank you enough. You've been very generous with your time joining us today. You have just had such a wonderful career, so many accolades, and are really a role model in an era where there are not many of those playing in the NFL today. So thank you so much for your time. Definitely hope to catch up soon. We'll be watching for you. Hope to see you on a squad next year, and we will definitely be watching and cheering for you, Charlie. We really appreciate it.
Hey, no problem. And if anybody wants to follow what I do or what we do throughout a calendar year, you can go to charliebatch.com or you can go to my Twitter page, which is charliebatch16.
All right. Thanks a lot, Charlie. Take care.